Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. Today's guest, Allyson Felix, is a legend in her sport and is making an even greater impact in her next chapter. She's a 5-time Olympian and recently retired as the most decorated American track and field star of all time. Allyson ends her career with an unbelievable 30 medals on the biggest stages, 19 at World Championships and 11 at the Olympics. Recently named one of Time's 100 most influential people, Allyson is stepping into her next chapter as a fierce advocate for women. She's the founder of Seish, a lifestyle brand focused on athletic-inspired footwear made for and by women. And she's become a powerful voice for maternity health, advocating for pregnancy protections for athletes and bringing attention to disparities in maternal mortality that disproportionately affect women of color. In today's conversation, we talk about managing pressure and expectations, bouncing back from setbacks, and overcoming fear to find your voice. Talk about a game changer. This is my conversation with Allyson Felix. All right, so Allyson, this is going to be fun. Let's dig in, girl. I have learned so much about you as I've prepped for our conversation, right? And I didn't realize, and I think this is really cool, that you didn't start track until 9th grade. And by 18, you were competing in your first Olympics, which isn't bad. I mean, let's just be honest. What did it take to get there?
Yeah, I mean, everything did happen very quickly. I mean, I stumbled into the sport and I fell in love with it. And I was in the Olympics, so quickly. And I felt like that really gave me like a taste of it. It showed me what was possible, but it was going to take so much more work to be able to be successful on that level. And so it took, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication, missing out on the typical, kind of growing up experience. It wasn't quite the same, but also I love the ride and the journey and all of it.
And I mean, you're a 5-time Olympian and the most decorated athlete in track and field history, which is incredible. Why do you think you've been able to sustain your success for so long? I mean, when you think about what you've done, and you've done it over a long period of time, what are some of the things that you did to evolve and extend your career?
Yeah, I think it was really just always being open to change and always having a goal. I've always been very goal oriented. I've always needed almost something to shoot for. And once I would accomplish one thing, then I would challenge myself in a new way. And so it was really about like getting outside of that comfort zone and exploring kind of new things. And like you said, I as I got older, it was almost like reinventing myself. I'm a true sprinter. I love to go fast. And the sprints came very natural to me. But as I got older, then I was like, okay, well, let me challenge myself with the 400 and let me see how I'll do there. And it wasn't something that was like, a love of mine, but it was a huge challenge to see how I could push myself there. So I think by always, having something new to go after and also, taking care of my body and all of that stuff, of course. But I really credit it to the people around me and really, branching out to new things.
Can you get me inside of the discipline that it required and the sacrifices that you made to compete at that level? Because I know they're significant.
Yeah, it was a lot, definitely it became a lifestyle. And, I think starting at a very young age and going through my college years, it was saying that like my life is not going to look like everyone else's. I want to do something different, so I have to take a different path. And so, I wasn't going to the parties. I was missing family events and birthdays and, special moments at home because I was traveling overseas to go to races and do all those things. And so, it was, there's definitely things that I missed out on in the discipline of it all, training 5 hours a day and your body hurts and things ache and, dealing with all of that, but it's all a part of it if you want to be able to compete on that level.
What's it like to train so hard for essentially a moment in time? I mean, literally seconds.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you feel crazy because it is like, you're training for 4 years for like 21 seconds. And if you mess it up, then you got to wait another 4 years. And at the beginning, it was such a difficult task to think about that. And then as I went on, I was able to kind of draw on the experience and figure out like what works for me. Like, what do I need to focus on in order to be present in this moment, to not make this moment bigger than it is? I run a race and I've done it a million times at practice. And to be able to do it on that big stage, the distance isn't changing, the environment is. And so whether it's me visualizing, me trying to block everything out, whatever the tools I'm using, I just need to know what works for me so that I can really maximize that one opportunity that I have.
What did you do? Because you're right. The distance is the same, right? I mean, you are the same person. What did you tell yourself as you put your feet in the blocks, right? To compete on a world stage so that you could execute?
Yeah. Well, the first two Olympics I went to, I got silver medals. And so I didn't get it fully right, and I learned so much from those moments. And what ended up working for me was I did visualize like the perfect race. And I played that in my mind. And before I, went out to the blocks, I'm thinking about that of all the things that need to happen. And then when I'm out there and I'm standing, in front of my blocks, I'm thinking about the technical thoughts, what do I need to do at 10 meters, at 20 meters, at 30 meters? Where is my body, my positions? And I do all that because it blocks out all the noise. It gives my mind something to think about so that I'm not thinking about what happens if I mess up this opportunity. And also, I think the third Olympics, where everything came together, I came in with a sense of calm and peace. And I really believe I was able to feel that way because of my preparation. I had trained, I had done everything possible so that I could be confident. If this is for me, it's going to be for me, and I just have to execute.
Hi there, it's Molly. I've got some exciting news to share. I'm thrilled to announce I've launched my first ever on-demand course, Up Your Game. Unlock the drive to fuel next level success. Have the past few years left you burned out and stretched thin? Like, despite your success, you're capable of more. Maybe you've lost your purpose and that inner fire to pursue your dreams. If so, you are not alone. So many of us have been there. As a top sports agent for 15 years, representing and working with the best of the best, I've seen and helped countless people unlock their drive to accomplish great things and finally live out their dreams. That's why I've crafted a brand new on-demand course to help you unlock your potential to fuel next level success. In my new course, Up Your Game, I share the critical 8 keys that you absolutely must use to get unstuck and to finally realize your fullest potential. This course, it's not inspirational fluff. It gives you action guides so that you can apply it to your life and take action right now. So are you ready to up your game? Sign up for my new course today at mollyfletcher.com/course. That's mollyfletcher.com/course. I can't wait for this course to change your life in incredible ways. Check it out. Your world is stepping into a blocks on a world stage and having to execute, right? But there's so many people listening that have to step into their own blocks, whatever those might be. And they got to deliver, whether it's a big sales pitch, whether it's a huge meeting, whatever it might be. What were the things that went through your head when your feet hit the blocks and you were sitting on go and you wanted to tell yourself all the positive things? What were the things that you told yourself in that moment so that you showed up as your best self for those 21 seconds?
Yeah, I told myself that I'm ready. I'm ready. I've already done the work. It's the work that is done when no one's looking. It's the long hours that you put in. It's all the stuff that we all do, right? That we're not getting an applause, as it's happening.
Sure.
But when I'm thinking about that moment in the blocks, it's like, here is my opportunity to show everyone, what I've been working on, what I've been doing, and also, enjoy it, enjoy the moment because it's the fruit of the labor that you've been doing.
hmm Allison, I mean, I'm sure you showed up to train on days when you didn't want to be there. You didn't feel up to it. You were like, dude, I'm exhausted. I'm done. What did you tell yourself when you didn't really want to be there, but you knew you needed to be there to achieve and find the final result, if you will, that you wanted most? What did you tell yourself in those moments?
Really that, if I wanted to accomplish this goal, if this thing that I'm shooting for is important to me, I can't cut corners. I have to take every step. I have to be able to put it all together. And, oftentimes I thought about my competitors, who would be training at that moment or, whatever I had to tell my mind to say, I've got to get out here. And then as I got older and, became a mother and then it shifted as well. And it was like, okay, I want to show my daughter, what it looks like to work hard and, all of the things, overcome adversity and do all that.
So, Allison, when you have nothing left to prove, you don't have a lot left to prove, right? I mean, you've done unbelievable. What keeps you competing?
That's a good question. Well, this is my final season, and I feel like I've always just been a competitor. I've always loved the sport, and as long as I felt good and healthy, it was always what I wanted to do. And I think for the first time this year, kind of felt like I don't have the same fight in me. I'm at a point where I feel like I've given all I have to give, and I think my mentors, everyone who I've talked to is kind of like, when you get to that point, then it's time to go to the next thing. But it's been, the drive has just been something that I'm passionate about. And for, almost 20 years, it hasn't wavered.
No, I'm a big advocate that drive is what it's all about. That complacency, unfortunately, can set in our lives unexpectedly at times. But we've got to unlock our drive to achieve and find fulfillment in the things in our lives that matter most. Off the track, I mean, you've become an incredible advocate for female athletes and gender equality. And as a foremost student athlete myself, certainly not at the level of you, not even close. You took on Nike over their maternity policy, which took incredible courage. Talk about a brand to take on in a sport, so tied at some level to sponsorship. What shifted for you to speak out to such a big brand?
Well, I was terrified. So it wasn't that I felt, courageous and bold. Not at all. I was so unsure of myself, but it was going through, the very personal situation. And I think more than anything, what I had seen, I grew up in the sport. And as a teenager, I saw women struggle through motherhood and competing. Friends of mine, very personal experiences. And when I found myself in the same situation, I was kind of blown away because I just didn't think it was going to be me. And because of that, and because of having a daughter, I think that was the last thing, during this time I had my daughter and I was looking at her and it was like, this fight can't be left to the next generation. Like it's bad enough that it's gone on this long. And I just felt like, no matter the consequences, it was that important to speak up and to share my truth.
What was your mission, Allison? I mean, what will success be to you inside of these conversations and inside of this mission?
I think it's really just supporting women holistically. It's holding companies accountable. It's saying that, we can't just be marketing. It has to be authentic and to the core. And, it was really great that eventually Nike did change their policy. And I think that there are ways that we can support women in all different aspects. And especially, I've been focusing on sport and how we can show up better for women in that space. And so I think true equality obviously is the goal. But I think, little movements along the way, it's good momentum and we got to just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, little moments create big outcomes, right? And you had an incredible TED Talk, Allison, by the way, which I think is fantastic, and I encourage people to check out. But you had a lot of fear. I mean, here you are pregnant and you talk about that, right, in your TED Talk. What gave you the strength, right, to step into that fear and stand up for what you believed in?
Oh, thinking back, I can't even believe that I was able to move forward because I was so scared and it was so unlike anything I had ever done. I'd always been that athlete, hyper focused on performance. Like that, I had my head down and I was doing the work. So when the situation came about, I just was so unsure. But I think it was thinking about other women, even women who paved the way for me to have opportunities and thinking about all those who, couldn't use their voice, who had the NDAs and couldn't talk about it. And it was like, here is an opportunity. And what I learned is like on the other side of that fear is freedom. And it was an incredible response. There was so much encouragement, so much support. And in one sense, that was, it felt amazing, but it also was heartbreaking because there was all these women who had their own situations and their own experiences, and they could relate to what I had been through. And that was very eye-opening to say that, this is a huge thing and there's so much work to be done.
Yeah, I mean, Allison, I'm the mother of three incredible daughters who I had in 12 months, which is a whole nother conversation, right? You had one, and then 12 months later, I had twins, and they're absolutely my reason. And you have a beautiful daughter in Cameron. But I know it was an extremely traumatic childbirth experience. I mean, that was a challenging, certainly sort of outcome for you, process for you. I mean, how did not just motherhood, right, but the totality of that experience from start to finish, how did that change you and your life?
I really believe that I had taken my health for granted. Being a professional athlete, I just never really even thought twice about it. I do all the right things. I live a healthy lifestyle. I'm exercising. I had a great pregnancy up until that point. And so I never imagined to find myself in this scary situation. And so once I, went through that and I had a severe case of preeclampsia and my daughter spent a month in the NICU and all of the things, it it showed me that I'm a lot stronger than I thought. But it also opened my eyes to, the issue of maternal health and how that affects women of color at such higher rates. And it was just kind of another area where I felt like there's a lot to be done here.
What was it like when you came back to compete again after having Cameron? And how did you deal with all the doubt, right? The self-doubt, the external doubt that came with that?
I had so much gratitude coming back because the whole process, like coming back from that ordeal, and I had emergency C-section, and I had such a sense of gratitude for what my body created and what it went through, and it was very humbling, to start at the very bottom and kind of slowly work myself back. But when I did finally get back, it felt incredible. And then to have my daughter in the stands, it was just such a moment where it was like, wow, I went through so much adversity and hardship over the last couple of years. Like it feels really good to be on the other side of things.
How has your why changed, right? Like your personal mission, if you will, your purpose, your why, how has it changed over the years?
I used to be just so competitive, and it was really like the will to win that motivated me. And then going through, the last, several years and having my daughter, it shifted into, this greater purpose of, one, wanting to be her role model and example and all the things, that we want to teach our children. But also I felt like for the first time, I really was a representation for women. And I had connected with so many women. And so when I made it back to the Olympics, it was like, yeah, I want to run fast. I want to win a medal, all of those things. But also it's like, I want people to see themselves in me. I want them to know that like no one can place limits on you and you can do whatever it is that your thing is or that you're trying to accomplish. So it was just really cool to have a connection that was beyond just my running on the track.
Yeah, I really believe deeply that it's not about achievement. It's about who you become as a process of the journey, which is sort of what I'm hearing you say. I mean, I know you're an incredibly decorated Olympic athlete, but I would imagine that the things that fill you up more is the journey that it took to get there.
Absolutely. I think, that's what at the end of the day, those are the things that are meaningful, and
Sure.
those are the things I'm most proud of. It has nothing to do with any medal or any time. It has absolutely everything to do with all of the things that I've tried to do away from the track.
Yeah. Amen. I love it. So I love to ask athletes this question. What drives you more, the desire to win or hating to lose?
Probably hating to lose.
That's what they all say.
Fall in that bucket.
Yeah, for sure. How do you think about competition, Allison? Like track is a sport where you're so, clearly you can measure yourself so clearly against others, but I imagine that you're also running a race against yourself, right? So how do you think about competition?
At the core, I'm super competitive, and like you said, track gives you that ability to right away, see that clear cut. But I always see, to me, it's always a process. It's always, I always want to be improving upon myself, and I hope that that also means that I'm, at the top and competing in an elite way. But it's continuing to evolve as a person, and but yeah, when I stand on the line, of course, I want to be the one crossing the line first. But I think it's also about all the other things of how I'm progressing against myself.
So this is unbelievable, right? I mean, when you think about your circle, your full circle, I mean, you own your own footwear brand. It's unbelievable. And in Tokyo, you ran in your own shoe.
Yeah.
That had to feel a little bit surreal, right? Like, what's the vision for Seish? And how do you think about the core values of the company, of your company?
Yeah, it's absolutely probably the highlight of my entire career to say that I made it to the Olympics, back to my fifth Olympics, and I competed in my shoes that my company built. The company Sage, it came about authentically, because I was training for the Olympics and I did not have a footwear sponsor. And I was just exhausted and tired of asking to be valued and for companies to see my worth. And so, in talking with my brother, we're like, well, what if we did this ourselves? And it felt so big, but then it also was like, well, here's an opportunity instead of asking for change to create it ourselves. And then we learned that shoes, were not even made for women. A shoe is built off of last, which is a mold, and it's a man's foot that has been used to make women's footwear. And so that was absurd. But it's so much bigger than sneakers. It's really, we exist to see women and to hear them and to know them. And we want to make sure that we support women and that women don't have to choose between, anything else, that they can pursue their passion and be able to do all of the things.
Hi again, it's Molly. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're a go-getter who wants to conquer, overwhelm, and sharpen your focus, I want to let you know about my new free webinar training, Purposeful Productivity. This free webinar gives you a framework to unlock more energy for what matters most and to finally beat burnout. Head over to mollyfletcher.com/webinar to access this free training and my new life-changing energy management framework. That's mollyfletcher.com/webinar. When you think about your journey on the track and certainly in the boardroom now with what you're doing, what life lessons as an athlete and a businesswoman have you learned that you apply to business, that you lift up to help you be a better businesswoman today?
Yeah, I think it's being able to weather the storm, being able to be a fighter and to persevere because, as an athlete, that's you always have to do that. It's inevitable that you're going to have a hiccup. And I think it's the same, and I'm learning quickly that it's quite the same in the business world. And it's really, you're going to come across the issues, but it's how do you have the confidence in your team that you can navigate those? And do you have that fighting spirit that you're going to do the work and you're going to stick with it if it's something. And I think it also comes back to having purpose, like, is the work that you're doing meaningful? And I think if you can answer that question, yes, then it's easier to be a fighter and to stick with it.
What is your purpose, Allyson?
I truly believe that, the last couple years have led me to my purpose. And I think it's using my voice on behalf of others whose voice isn't as loud, pushing for change, advocating for women. That's when I feel most fulfilled. That's where I feel most present. And so, yeah, I'm definitely going to keep on with that.
Where does your confidence come from?
I've always felt confident through preparation, through knowing, that I've done work, really leaning on that. I feel like, I've had a great foundation in my parents and, how they raised me. They're just extremely hard workers. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for my upbringing.
I always think confidence comes from action, right? You got to do to get confident, right? You can't lay in bed and go, I'm going to get confident tomorrow, right? Like you got to do it. And then you become.
Sometimes you just got to take that first step,
Yeah, for sure. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, I would say, embracing the journey. And I think for me, for a long time in my career, I was very focused on one specific goal, win a gold medal. And it felt like when I didn't, it was such a failure. And as I got older, it was like, no, there's so much to learn from a defeat. There's so much to learn when things don't go right. And so instead of being so down and so paralyzed in that failure, in that disappointment, quickly figure out what is the takeaway here? And let's keep on pushing. So I think embracing the failures, embracing the defeats, and of course, celebrating the high moments, but it's about the whole.
Totally. It's who you become as a part of the journey for sure. So beyond Seish, what do some of the next chapters entail for Allyson?
Yeah, well, that will be my day-to-day and what I'm so excited to just grow Seish and continue on there. But I'm also very passionate about maternal health and I want to continue to do work in that space. And I've been really excited to advocate for mom athletes. And recently we were able to offer childcare at some of our events this year. And so I want to continue to grow that and hopefully just continue to build and say, what are the ways that we can show up and support so that women can make their own decisions if they choose to have families or not, but that they don't feel like they don't have a choice to make.
Yeah, girl, as a mother of 3 incredible daughters, and certainly we've interviewed some incredible women like you, Carly Lloyd, and more on our podcast. I love it. Amen. Thank you for that, for your leadership there, no doubt. All right, so Allyson, we end with rapid fire, so I'm going to hit you with some quick ones. And I know you're fast, so I know you got this. So what's your most memorable career moment?
I have to say one of my most memorable and favorite is last year, making the Olympic team and having my daughter come on the track. It was just so good.
I can only imagine. What's one thing you wish you knew earlier in your career?
How to deal with defeat, how to deal with disappointment.
And how would you tell yourself now to deal with that?
To embrace it, that it's not this thing that you have to shy away from, that there's always, that's how you get better, it's part of life.
Amen. Failure is awesome. One habit that's improved your life?
Reading, I love a good book.
All right, I'm going to FedEx you all my books.
Yeah, definitely added to my life.
Yeah, curiosity is key. What are you most excited about once you officially retire?
Just doing the things that small things that I missed out on. I'm really excited to ski. I've never learned to ski before. So that,
good for you.
Eating all the things and not caring.
Yeah.
Little small things.
What do people get wrong about you?
I think, because I'm quiet and shy sometimes. I think, they don't think I'm as fierce of a competitor, but yeah, I think I definitely am, how competitive I am.
I wouldn't want to line up next to you, girl. I would feel it, man. I would feel it. All right. So boil your success down to 3 words.
Perseverance, grit, and gratitude.
I love it. Do you have a gratitude practice?
I have a journal that I keep. And so that I actually started during the pandemic and it's really been good for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of data around that. That's awesome. So the show's called Game Changers. So who or what is a game changer that inspires you and why?
I'll go with who. Michelle Obama is a game changer for me, and she has always inspired me just to push for more.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't. There's just a gracefulness about her. She's such a force and a powerhouse, and accomplishes so much. But I love the way in which she does it.
Allyson Felix, you are a full-on, straight-up, all-American badass. Thank you for joining me. This is fun.
Thanks for having me.
Here are a few of my favorite takeaways from my conversation with Allyson. Number one, when the moment gets big, think small. Wow. Have you ever wondered what goes through a runner's mind when their feet are in the starting blocks? It was so cool to hear Allyson explain how when the moment gets big, she intentionally thinks small. She's already visualized her success, so when it's go time, she dials in on the nitty-gritty technical aspects, what she needs to do at 10 meters, 20 meters. This approach blocks out the noise and gives her mind something to think about. The best performers know that under pressure, it's all about trusting your preparation and executing. Number two, on the other side of fear is freedom. That's a good one. Hearing how Allyson stepped into her own power as a voice for change in her sport and beyond was so inspiring. We see the courage and confidence with which she uses her platform, but it all came from a willingness to step into discomfort. That's a lesson we can all apply, isn't it, to our own lives. And number three, know your value. Know your value. How badass is it that Allyson medaled in her final Olympics wearing a shoe from her own line, Seiche? That's 100% betting on yourself. I love how Allyson talked about how the idea of Seiche came from asking a simple question. What if? Those two words ignited a spark. Allyson's a perfect example that when we get tired of asking for change, you have to go out there and create it yourself. Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Check it out. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.